If there's one thing you taught me, Denise, it's to believe is one thing, but to know is another. Watch the Skies, aka UFO Sweden, is a film that's actually been around for a couple years, but is getting a big theatrical release in the United States. I recently saw a trailer when I saw another independent film and thought, well, that looks actually kind of decent, and the reviews have been pretty positive, so let me check out Watch the Skies. So if you get that reference, I absolutely love you guys. And because it's from Sweden, I do want to apologize if I mispronounce / butcher / demolish any of these names because I'm an idiot when it comes to pronouncing foreign names, at least foreign to me. This was written and directed by Victor Donnell, who did The Unthinkable. I swear I've seen that movie. I've reviewed so much stuff. If not, I will check it out, especially after watching Watch the Skies. And also there was another writer, Jimmy Nevin Olsen. Not Jimmy Olsen. Not to be... Anybody that gets a Jimmy Olsen reference, my God, everybody's just dying laughing in the comments, and you're at least as old as I am. So, and you're also a comic book nerd. So, we have Denise, who is a teenager that is trying to overcome the loss of her dad. Basically, during the opening sequence, we find out that her and her dad had an interesting relationship, shall we say. There's a group called UFO Sweden. There's information that was obtained in 1988, and then we smash cut to 1996. So you know what that means. People that are around my age are going to get a load of nostalgia, and then it's going to be blasted all over our faces, going down our throats, going in every goddamn pore and orifice as it were, and it is going to be certainly quite the experience. Windows 95, a Game Boy. My God, a Game Boy. I used to have a Game Boy. Certainly didn't need batteries like the goddamn Game Gear or the Atari Lynx. I think that was the name of the handheld that Atari tried doing. Didn't TurboGrafx 16 also have a goddamn handheld? Nevertheless, enough video game talk. Let's talk about the fact that Denise is played by Inez Dal Torhog. God, I probably butchered that, but kind of in the vein of Sadie Sink, as far as an upcoming actress, Sweetie Sink, as it were. I'm trying to have fun here. She ends up teaming up with some people that actually knew her father, called UFO Sweden, to find evidence of intelligent life as it were, as many people with English, proper wording calls, as I butchered this entire goddamn line. But the whole thing is she teams up with these people and they go to find intelligent life, as well as Denise trying to find her father. And in the vein of Spielberg and Abrams and other sci-fi movies from even going back to like the 50s, with that sense of wonder and whimsy, but more like in line with the 70s and the 80s, where you had that sense of adventure and fun and heartfelt stuff. And sure, some things don't make a whole lot of sense, or story elements that are very, very familiar. There are characters that are just there for a few scenes and then they drop out. There's a lot of stuff that you have seen before, but with the right twist and with the right understanding of the source material and with a cast that understood the assignment, Watch the Skies is a load of goddamn fun. I had a great time watching this. I enjoyed the fuck out of this. There are a couple issues I will talk about here in just a little bit. It's not a perfect movie, but it is definitely the most fun I have had in a while. This and Clown in the Cornfield, within the same 24-hour period, certainly, shows that cinema can be fun if you understand what the fuck you're doing. Yes, there are a few plot convenient moments, like, hey, how'd they get out of this situation? Plot convenient. And don't worry, it's not the type of plot convenience that we got from Shadow Force. Check out that review. But Denise can't do it alone. There's Leonard Jesper Barkselius, who I do have to say, that guy, very, very good. There's an old man, not River, but old man Gunner. I'm not going to try to pronounce the rest of the actors' names outside of two more. But there are other people in this group. Tona, I believe is her name, Met, and Carl. Carl's kind of the goofy nerd, kind of out there one that really does believe, but is also a bit simple-minded in the sense that he is more dedicated to the cause, but he's a genuinely good person. And all of them do pretty good. There is a character named Kiki, played by Eva Melander. The standout to me is Sarah Sherpay as Tommy, who's a cop. That actress, with respect, Jesus Christ, where has she been hiding? I need to check out more of her stuff because she was good in this. She is also a fucking smoke show. She looks amazing. I mean, I was captivated by her. That's just my opinion. But her acting came first. She was pretty good in this. And it does have that sense of wonder, like with, I'm not going to say it's exactly like E.T. because I'm going to be perfectly honest, E.T. was not necessarily one of my favorite movies. But it has story elements and stuff from other sci-fi movies, but it presents its narrative well. And despite the fact that the film probably had a modest budget, I assume, I don't know, it works well, and it does the time period right. There are people that say it invokes Stranger Things. I never fucking watched Stranger Things. I've seen enough clips to where I can see why people would think that. And the one major criticism, and this is something that I had heard about but didn't know how the fuck they were going to pull it off. They used a form of AI to sync the actors' mouths with the English language dub. Now, creative, I'll give them that much credit, and there are times where it works. There are times where it's seamless. Like, I'm not even knocking the crew when they do this. But that's really my only major quibble. Well, that and a couple of things I'll talk about with the third act. But there are parts, there are times especially, and I'm not even knocking necessarily the voice acting, like the ones that do the dubbing. I would have rather this had been in Swedish if they were going to do this. It's really my only complaint, but maybe they did this to get more broad appeal. Maybe they wanted to test this shit out. Maybe the people that did this AI were funding this movie, and that's why they wanted to use this movie as a vehicle. I don't know. But especially for the actor playing Denise, there are times where her lines are okay, but she's probably the most egregious where, oh boy, there are times where it just sounds literally automated as she says these certain lines, like, we have to do this, and 80% of the time it works pretty well. And there are other characters where it doesn't work as well, but if you kind of ignore the fact that sometimes the mouths don't, it's a little bit janky, it's mostly good. And really, if you can get over that hurdle, which is about the only major hurdle with it, it turns out to actually be a pretty damn fun movie. It's very fun to watch, and it has this sense of adventure, and the throwback feel absolutely works. So it is in theaters if you want to check it out. I don't know how long it's going to be in theaters. I did actually have to drive to a theater about 30 miles south of me. That was the one that was playing it the closest. The next one was Seattle, and I'm not going there. But I'm glad I decided to watch this because it was worth driving there and back even through rush hour traffic. Couldn't wait to talk about it, and that's why I'm talking about it here. But yeah, the actress who plays Denise, she does a good job. I think she's got a bright future. Again, Sarah, Jesus, more projects for her, please. But very good acting by the people. And it ends very nicely. So, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. So basically in 1988, Denise's dad obtained some stuff from this, along with this group UFO Sweden. They break into this place, but he kind of leaves them in a lurch. One old man gets shot, and that kind of leads to something a little bit later on, a little bit tie into the end that I really, really liked. Then the father disappears. Denise is staying with family of some variety, and she's kind of, rebellious and everything. She's upset her dad left her. But he left all his information, codes, formulas, all this technical stuff. She eventually does find UFO Sweden, talks to people. Leonard was the guy that actually got fired from his job, the one that was handing the information to him, but then he realized, maybe this is a mistake, maybe something's going on here. And obviously, once they find out who she is, there's some resistance, not because they have anything against her, but they think like father, like daughter. The father betrayed them, maybe the daughter will. And there's a bit of truth to that almost a little bit later on, where I was like, okay, we're not going to go down that path. Thankfully, we didn't, but we almost got there. They also established that Tommy and Denise have a bit of a friendship, shall we say, because Tommy is looking for UFO Sweden to shut them down. Because I guess they're seen as a tour group. I'm not going to use the word because I don't want to get flagged. And Kiki also is writing this thing called SMHI. I had to nail that into my goddamn head and write it down in my goddamn notes because I thought they said SM or SNMHI. Because, again, some of the AI syncing was a little bit weird. But we do get some bonding with this group. Again, the actor who played Carl did a very good job. Just with a name that I would have a hard time pronouncing. And there's a sense of wonder about that. We have Denise, who rides a dirt bike. And after certain things lead to them having to get out of these headquarter areas, when they're looking for stuff, they actually do find evidence of some kind of alien life. But that's shutting down, that's doing electrical, issues, causing electrical outages, causing traffic outages, causing various things to go wrong. There's bulbs bursting all over the place. There's also this early part where they show this cow that has this tag on it. That says 2342. And then there's research a little bit later on, like the various, missing people, missing objects, including a plane. More on that in a bit. And they're doing this great investigation. There's some great, northern lights, aurora borealis, this time of year, at this time of day. And this part of the world located entirely in the Swedish skies. Yes. May I see it? Bork, bork, bork. I'm sorry, Sweden. I'm sorry. I tried to resist the Swedish chef thing. Is the Swedish chef offensive to you all? God, I hope not. I think there's like 3 people from Sweden that might have watched my videos once. So nevertheless, great job by the crew here. I just couldn't resist that for some reason because the child in me watching the Muppets. So Denise is continuing to work with UFO Sweden. They even had pins, all the stuff. She ingratiates herself with them. And during a point where, they're up on this like hill almost, or in the woods, turns out Kiki, Ava's character, has like this super secret duper technology that they want to find alien life or something. Some of this is a little bit glossed over and just kind of thrown in, like, with a few pieces of dialogue, but it's fine. It's okay. And Leonard is the most trusting of them, but obviously he does have a few issues because he recognizes Denise's abilities and her desire to find closure. And he still does respect what the dad did, but there are still, ill feelings, especially the old guy Gunner. So there's this one part where this car flies into this goddamn barn a little bit earlier on, and it looks exactly like the car that Denise's dad had. So more on that here in a bit. They're doing this stuff, they're investigating. Tomi talks to Kiki, and she is basically saying, I will bring this group down, I will do this. She knows that Denise knows something, but she can't prove it. Denise is taking this hard drive and trying to work on this stuff, Windows 95 and everything, my God. And dial-up internet. God, I don't miss that bullshit at all. We had that here for a while, unfortunately, because we're kind of out in the woods. We were literally 4 miles from the nearest traffic light. 4 miles to 6 miles, depending on, which direction you go. So that being said, we get, some good banter between these characters. I mean, I do want to say that. There's actually a good rapport with them. Even if some of them are only kind of surface level, there's at least enough to that. And also, it turns out that Gunner is kind of a bit of a betrayer because he's tired of this. He's old. He's, the one that got shot, so he's got this cane. And as Denise continues to investigate, she finds out that there's this intersecting part where this ship has crash landed in the middle of a lake. Okay. Now they mention that they don't have a lot of resources. There's a running gag about coffee, but they're working, or they're living at, in a junkyard. That's like their headquarters. That's like the headquarters, essentially, once they get kicked out of the office because they try to get away and do all that. And she ends up coming up with this idea, let's go to the lake and everything. What are we going to do? We're going to winch it out. They're going to use a giant metal, giant winch, and also, the giant magnet, to lift cars out and everything. If you don't use the claw, use the giant, that claw, use the thing that would make Triple H fry and everything and see other dimensions. Deep cut for wrestling fans. And they get this big old shipping container on this truck somehow. I mean, just with all these resources. I mean, I know how they do it. They lift it up with the magnet. But they don't have much money for anything except this, but they're able to get all this stuff. And okay, logic loophole, it is what it is. They get down there, and the idea is this force is so great with the magnet and with what they're trying to get out of the ocean. It's a great scene. They get it to where they're pulling it, and it's coming up and everything, and it's looking great. And shit's not looking all, shit's looking up. Well, then they get out, eventually, and the crew's almost put in complete danger. And then it turns out that it's actually just a plane. So Denise is upset. She gets upset because they don't want to continue this. Maybe there's more at the bottom of the lake. She ends up calling them freaks, which is what they've been called by other people. Echoing what her dad did. So she nearly fucked that up. And then she ends up in the back of Tomei's cop car. Arrested by Sarah Sherpy. There are way worse ways to go. Sherpay, sorry. So, if anybody from Sweden knows how to pronounce these names, please type them in a way maybe I could possibly understand. So basically, she sees the plane getting taken by and sees the number 2342. It was a missing plane from that article, the same number where that cow had a clip, had an ear clip. So I don't think the cow was on the plane. And there's more on that in a bit. They basically discover, even though Kiki's supposed to be kind of technically the villain, the police get a tip. It's a tip actually from the old man Gunner because he's tired of this. Because they decide to go off and leave him and get rid of UFO Sweden and just leave him on his own. So he leaves an anonymous tip. And now the cops are showing up at this headquarters, HDMI headquarters. I kid, of course. And they're just, Denise is going through this stuff. Kiki's going through this. Police are doing this. And Kiki ends up getting arrested. Denise somehow manages to get away and this kind of stuff. And she gets with Leonard after basically the other crew shows up in the old Saab, or Saab, I think is how it's said. S-A-A-B, I think that's a Swedish car. And they end up getting arrested, but somehow they get in the car. Now, they notice that the car, for whatever reason, the damage isn't quite right, like what's going on with this car. They have determined, by the way, or at least Denise did with Kiki, that, oh, by the way, wormholes. That's how we were able to do this. Wormholes to other dimensions, other time periods, other whatever. Science. That's basically the explanation. That's how the car got in the barn. It got sent through a wormhole. So wherever that car came from is where her dad is, basically. As far as I can tell, the movie started to get a little bit jumbled here. But the idea is this car is supposed to end up back in the barn. And they look like they're going to get caught by the police. Tomei's got her gun ready. It's at the top of the parking garage. There was one funny scene earlier where just before, after seeing the plane, where Denise actually hotwired the car and caused the airbag to burst. And that was a funny scene, and the car crashed. And the car crash wasn't as funny as the airbag part. That was pretty funny. So they managed to they're going to dive off the goddamn part of the parking garage, and they end up on top of a mountain. How are they on top of a mountain? Well, wormhole, just science. Don't dispute it. They end up kind of tumbling down the hill a bit. Leonard ends up hurting his leg. More on that in a bit. He ends up being left while she goes to look for her dad because she knows her dad's nearby. All this stuff, all those configurations, all this thing, it turns out it was leading her to this. And there's this wormhole portal thing that's going to take him to an alien world. And he says, oh, come on with. He was never going to come back. He was doing this for selfish reasons. And she didn't want to go back. She discovered what she needed to discover, but she wasn't going to go there. Kind of like The Return by Graydon Clark, if you remember that. That's actually kind of what the ending sort of reminded me of, except without the weird hillbilly. Even though they actually played Leonard, almost could have been if you'd worn overalls. But nevertheless, Father ends up going. She ends up getting with Leonard. They get back up. They tumble back down the hill, and it looks like they're done. They're totally done for. They're done. Wherever they are going to freeze to death. That kind of stuff. She says, "Oh, you came back? Yes, I came back because, well, we need to have a hook for the end of the movie." No, she came back because she realized that you kind of don't need blood to be family, and her dad was kind of a dick, and maybe they were right all the time. So, suddenly, it looks like they're both dead. We fade to white, and then we fade back, and suddenly Leonard is waking up in a field and sees some medieval people. And they've traveled all the way back to 1361. Actually, no, they've traveled to 1998, and that was just a reenactment thing. And Swedish Sink is there in the foreground, or in the background, comes to the foreground, and they end up in the same exact spot, essentially. They start, UFO Sweden has started again, and now Leonard has a limp, just like the old man from before. Something that the father did led to a man having a limp. Something the daughter did led to another man having a limp. I don't know if that was intentional, but it was good if it was good whether it was or wasn't. So that's it. That ends right there, and they're doing investigating and all that. And you know what? Watch the Skies was a lot of fun. Quibbles, sure, the AI stuff and a couple pacing issues, but more often than not, this movie absolutely worked. A-, had a lot of fun with it. Probably butchered the names. I apologize. Agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.